Yo, what's good, y'all? Terry Warford. I hope you're having a good day so far. If this is your first time here, a big fat welcome to you. And if you're part of the fam, you're part of the squad, and you came back, yo, welcome back. As you can see, it is a beautiful evening out here. And today, I was actually coming to do a tutorial on how to do like long exposure photography with the camera, but I got my drone with me, and I thought it would probably be a little bit more interesting to get some better perspectives like out over the water. It is very, very windy. Extra risky with the Mavic Air 2, but you know what? We're gonna do it. So this ain't gonna be a super long video, just a quick tutorial on how to show you how to get some banger photos using your Mavic Air 2 and long exposure. Let's get it. Let's go ahead and get into this tutorial. I'm gonna try to make this as short as possible. The Mavic Air 2 is in the air. It's windy. Sorry if y'all having a hard time hearing me because of the waves. But these principles I'm about to show you, you can basically use with any camera. The only disadvantage to the Mavic Air 2 is you can't adjust the aperture. So we'll have to do a few things to compensate for that real quick. Now, all we're gonna do is really drag the shutter. The problem with dragging the shutter is when you slow the shutter speed down, typically that means way too much light is entering the camera. The other problem with a fast shutter speed is it doesn't capture movement. So what we want to do to capture all of these waves and still get a dope picture, we want to be able to slow that shutter speed down. Now there's a few ways you can decrease your overall exposure. Number one is lowering your ISO. We already at base ISO 100. Number two is closing down your aperture. The other way we could do this is with ND filters. Now, special shout out to my folks over at FREEWELL. They did send me over their all-day kit, which does cover basically all the ND filters you would need, plus circular polarizers built in. Right now, I got an ND64 on there, and without further ado, let's take this bad baby out there. After all of these birds pass, they like attacking drones, and I can't afford for them to be attacking my Mavic Air 2. All right, so first thing we want to do, search for dope composition. So I'm gonna lower this down some. And like I said, you could do this with any camera, but I really wanted to do the Mavic Air 2 to give you some dope perspective. So first thing I'm gonna do is put this in the photo mode. Now I'm not using the 48 megapixel mode. I'm using the standard mode. Not saying you can't use 48 megapixels, but I'm happy with the regular pictures without the 48 megapixel stuff. So the second thing we're gonna do after we got it in photo mode is we're gonna go down here and make sure that our exposure is set to manual, because we wanna be able to set that to manual. So like I said, my ISO is already ISO 100. And real quick, I wanna show you the effects of shutter speed. So speeding this up is gonna darken our image, but also it makes movements very, very sharp because it's capturing a smaller moment in time. Now, conversely, if we slow our shutter speed, obviously it gets brighter, but because there's a bigger interval between when the shutter opens and the shutter closes, that's the opportunity to capture more motion, which is what we want. So for motion with water, you want to try to get down to at least 1/8 of a second. So let's shoot down there. And as you can see by my light meter, I am still 0.7 overexposed. So I'm actually gonna go to 1/10 of a second. And I think this is gonna be our sweet spot. Now, a lot of this you can edit and post, you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna go ahead and snap this picture and see how it comes out. Let me turn this way a little bit. The slower the shutter speed, the more dramatic the silky water effect, if that's what you wanna call it, the more dramatic that'll be. So I'm gonna slow it down even more. Like, I don't wanna push it too far because then we lose all our highlights in the sky, but I'm gonna take one more. And then also, I'm gonna get closer to the rock, which is a little dangerous because these waves ain't no joke, but you know, we gotta do it in the name of YouTube, so let's do it. All right, out of that series, we gotta have at least 1 or 2 sharp photos. So let's get back to the studio, throw these in the computer, and see what we came up with. All right, y'all, so here I am back in the studio, and to be honest, I wasn't even gonna drop this video because I just feel like I failed, man. I got some dope pictures, but they weren't what I was looking for. So the reason I'm gonna still put this video out is because the technique does work. Slowing your shutter down to capture movement absolutely works. I actually had my camera going at the same time, and I was able to run a 13-second exposure and look at the result. Now with a camera, it's easy because the camera is stationary, it's not moving around. And it's good that it was a windy day because the water was very, very choppy, and a lot of that movement translated over into giving us like that smooth looking water surface that we were trying to go for. The issue with the flying camera, however, and I don't care how good the flying camera is, i.e. Mavic Air 2, is, let's be real, the thing weighs a freaking pound and a half, right? You got a 20-mile-per-hour gust whipping up, down, back, forth, left, right. Like, the drone can only do so much. And mind you, the Mavic Air 2 actually does a really good job with flying stable, hovering stable. But when you got a crosswind whipping every which way, it can only do so much. The gimbal can only do so much. So here's the issue. With the camera on a tripod, we ain't got to worry about this. With a drone, however, when the shutter is open, if that drone moves at all, then all of that motion gets translated to the photo, which basically smears everything in the photo. So that's where the issue was. And also, I wish I was able to drag the shutter open longer to give us more movement in the water. However, I didn't have an ND filter dark enough, number one. Number two, it was too windy. So this same technique would work if we were like on a calm day shooting a waterfall, or if we were doing like night photography trying to capture trails or cars and stuff like that. But anyways, let's get into the iPad. I'm gonna show you these images, show you what I'm talking about, and hopefully you can go test it out yourself and still find some good stuff. All right, the first thing I wanna point out is, as long as you don't overexpose your images too much, the DNG files out the Mavic Air 2 are actually very, very pliable. You can move them around, push them and pull them, recover a lot of your highlight details. This shot actually, even though it's not that sharp, you can see like right in the middle how it captured some of that movement I was talking about. So the water doesn't look like it was actually choppy. It's got almost that glassy smooth look, even though the picture isn't that sharp. Let's go to the next one. Same thing, you can see over here how there's a lot of movement in the water. However, I wasn't able to drag the shutter long enough without overexposing the image to make it super smooth. Plus, like I said, it was windy. Next picture, like I said, you can see movement over here in the rocks. Let's go to the next picture, same thing. Now, this is a good example right here of the smearing that you will get if the camera moves. That's what happened in this picture. The camera moved, and unfortunately the shutter wasn't open long enough. So it was, again, those same two factors against us. Now, I really love this shot. I wish I could have got a longer shutter to smooth the water out. However, it did come out dope. Now, something else I want to point out, those FREEWELL ND filters, if you take a look up at the sky, they have polarizers built into them. And polarizers are extra dope when you're shooting surfaces like water, glass, or if you're shooting into the sky. They preserve a lot of highlights and they get rid of a lot of reflections too. So I will drop the link to the FREEWELL ND filters that I used for this video in these pictures down in the description. Make sure y'all go grab those. Now, this right here is my favorite shot out the whole series. This is another good shot. This is another good shot. And this is another good shot. Same thing right here. I almost got some of the movement, but I didn't get it completely. But yeah, so that's what we got. Again, this technique does work. So I'm gonna challenge y'all. Get your Mavic Air 2, your Mavic Air 1, grab you some ND filters and go find you a waterfall or some night trails or something like that. Slow your shutter speed down, make sure your exposure is where it's supposed to be, and fly on a calm day. I cannot stress that enough. If it were calm out there, we would have been able to get some even doper pictures, but it is what it is. You can't win them all. I definitely was about to reshoot this video, so I hope you learned something from this video, and that's all I got for you. So I'm out of here. Peace and chicken grease. Terry Warfield. Peace.